Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive.
Mm.
Today, we're going to do something a little different.
Mm-hmm.
We're diving into a motivational speech.
Okay.
And I got to warn you, it uses some pretty colorful language.
All right.
But honestly, beyond the strong words, there's some surprisingly insightful advice in there about dealing with tough times and, coming out stronger.
Yeah, I think the speaker's style is definitely what grabs you first. It's like they're not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, it's pretty raw,
Yeah,
no holds barred kind of thing.
it is. It kind of makes you sit up and take notice.
For sure. And they don't waste any time getting to the point. Like,
Yeah.
right off the bat, they hit you with this idea that life is like a grindstone.
It's a really powerful metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it
Yeah.
really captures how those challenges, the tough stuff we all go through, can either, make us stronger or completely wear us down.
Right, right.
It's like the pressure's always there, but we get to choose how we respond to it.
So how do we make sure we're the ones being sharpened by the grindstone?
Well, the speaker talks about these test days. It's like those days when everything just feels like an uphill battle. You just
Yeah.
want to give up. And they say these are the days when you got to push even harder.
So when things are going wrong, that's
Yeah.
when we should actually push harder.
Yeah, I know. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, it does.
But think about it. When we avoid challenges, we're basically telling ourselves we can't handle them.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But when we lean into those challenges, even when it's uncomfortable, that's how we build that mental toughness.
So it's not about ignoring our feelings, but more about not letting those feelings control what we do.
Exactly. And the speaker even shares a story about dragging themselves to the gym at 5 a.m. after a really tough night.
Wow.
They were like, and I quote, "I'm not going to break on a test day."
Wow, that's commitment.
Talk about walking the walk, right?
Yeah. I guess it's kind of like when you have a deadline,
Yeah.
and the pressure's on, but you just buckle down and get it done.
Yeah.
There's something satisfying about that feeling.
Yeah, there is. It's like proving to yourself that you have the strength to push through even when you really don't feel like it.
Exactly.
And, the speaker takes this idea even further with this whole concept of becoming a savage.
Okay, I have to admit, that word caught my attention. It sounds a bit intense.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But what they mean by savage is cultivating this relentless discipline and a bias toward action. It's about pushing past those comfort zones and always striving to improve.
Okay, so it's not about being like mean or ruthless.
No.
It's more about having that inner drive
Exactly.
that pushes you to be better.
Yeah, that fire in your belly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to this really powerful statement they make. Your mind has to be stronger than your feelings. They're basically saying our minds need to be the ones in control, not our emotions.
So again, it's not about denying our emotions, but not letting them dictate our actions.
Right. Which is, of course, way easier said than done.
Yeah. Do you think, though, this whole savage thing could be taken too far?
Oh, for sure.
Like, there's got to be a balance, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this mindset can be really motivating,
Yeah.
but you don't want to push yourself to the point of burnout or, neglecting taking care of yourself.
Right. It's about finding that intensity without letting it consume us.
Exactly. And this actually connects back to that lion analogy we talked about earlier.
Remind me about that.
So the speaker makes this point that a lion's physique isn't built by just, eating. It's built through the hunt. They're saying that our goals, our own personal hunts, require that same kind of effort and pushing our limits.
So it's not just about the end goal.
No,
It's about what we go through to get there.
exactly. It's the struggle, the effort we put in along the way that makes us stronger and more capable.
I like that.
Yeah. And the speaker actually goes on to say that when things get really tough, like when your plan is fucked up.
Okay, there's that colorful language again.
Well, yeah. But the point they're making is the key is to stay fucking hard.
Okay.
It's about not losing that inner strength, even when you face setbacks.
But what does staying hard even look like in real life? Like, how do we actually do that?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
Okay, so we've been talking about this savage mindset, pushing yourself, embracing the challenges, and not letting your feelings, totally run the show.
Right.
But how do we actually put all this into practice, like in our everyday lives?
Well, I think it starts with realizing that big changes, they actually come from those smaller, consistent actions,
Okay.
Like think about building a muscle, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't just get ripped overnight.
Yeah, yeah.
It's those daily reps, that consistent effort that really makes the difference.
So it's not about trying to transform yourself overnight. It's more about those smaller everyday wins.
Exactly. Like maybe you set your alarm a little earlier to squeeze in a workout
Yeah.
or finally tackle that project you've been putting off.
Oh, I feel that.
Yeah, and each time you choose action over inaction, you're reinforcing that whole I'm not going to break mentality.
So you're kind of proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you might think.
Exactly.
I like that.
And along with those actions, it's also about how we view those challenges in the first place.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing them as these giant roadblocks, we can start to see them as opportunities for growth.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
Remember that lion analogy we talked about?
Yeah.
The hunt isn't just about getting to the meal at the end. It's about the lion becoming stronger through the effort, the struggle itself.
Yeah. So the tough part is actually part of what makes us stronger.
Exactly. And think about those times when you feel completely overwhelmed, like things are spinning out of control.
Oh,
The speaker has some really good advice for those moments, too.
okay.
They talk about focusing on what you can control, even when everything else feels like chaos.
Right. They even gave some specific examples, didn't they?
Yeah, like taking charge of your schedule, what you're watching, your sleep habits.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. It's about taking ownership of those smaller aspects of your life. Even when the bigger picture feels really daunting, it gives you this sense of control.
Yeah, like you're not just a helpless bystander.
Exactly. You're taking back control, one step at a time.
I like that. It reminds me of this time I was facing a massive deadline at work.
Oh,
Yeah, the project was huge and I felt totally stuck. And then I remembered what the speaker said.
okay.
Instead of freaking out, I just focused on what I could control.
Well,
I broke the project down into smaller pieces, organized my workspace, and set realistic daily goals.
yeah.
It really made a huge difference.
See, that's a perfect example of putting this mindset into action.
Yeah.
It's not just some abstract idea of being, a warrior or something. It's
Yeah.
about those practical steps you take to actually overcome those challenges.
I like that.
Yeah.
And, the speaker also talks about using those negative experiences, the setbacks, as fuel.
Right.
So instead of letting them, drag us down, we use them to push us forward.
Exactly. Remember that chip on your shoulder? It's like taking all those doubts, the criticisms, those times people told you you couldn't do something, and turning them into motivation.
It's like turning that negative energy into something positive.
Yeah, exactly. And, as we talked about before, it's important to make sure that chip doesn't turn into bitterness or resentment.
Yeah, well,
It's not about holding on to anger. It's about using that experience to fuel your own growth, to prove to yourself that you can get through anything.
and I think that brings us back to the heart of this whole savage warrior mentality.
Yeah.
It's not about being aggressive or cutthroat. It's about building that inner strength, that resilience that lets you face whatever life throws at you.
Yeah. And it's about that relentless pursuit of your goals, even when you hit roadblocks, setbacks, or people who just don't believe in you.
So it's like you're not giving up on yourself,
Right.
even when things get tough.
Exactly. It's about that unwavering belief in yourself, that determination to keep going. But it's also about knowing when you need to take a step back to recharge and take care of yourself.
Right? Finding that balance between pushing yourself and knowing your limits.
Yeah, that's key.
So I think as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
it's good to remember that this whole savage warrior thing isn't like something you just have or you don't.
Yeah.
It's something you develop, something you practice, and you build it over time.
And it's not about becoming someone you're not.
Right.
It's about finding that strength and resilience that's already inside you.
Yeah, it's about owning your own journey, embracing the challenges,
Yeah.
and using them to push yourself further. But we're not quite done yet. We've talked about the what and the how of this savage mindset, but there's one more question we need to address.
The why.
Why? Why put yourself through all this?
Why embrace the struggle when things could be easier? That's what we'll explore next.
So we've talked about how to, actually embrace this whole savage warrior mindset.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, why?
Yeah, why bother?
Why push ourselves?
Why choose the hard road when things could be so much easier? It's a good question. I mean, who really wants to go looking for a challenge? But I think the answer is in what happens to us when we do push past those comfort zones.
So it's not just about getting through the tough stuff, but who we become because of it.
Exactly. Think back to that whole idea of test days.
Yeah.
Those are the days that really show us what we're made of. The
Yeah.
days that force us to dig deep and find a strength we didn't even know we had.
It's like when you finally do something you thought you couldn't.
Yeah.
That feeling, that sense of accomplishment,
It's amazing, right?
yeah, it gives you so much confidence.
And the speaker actually talks about those times when you feel totally alone, like no one else is willing to put in the effort.
Oh, yeah.
It's in those moments that your own commitment to yourself and your goals, that's what really matters.
Yeah, like you become your own biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
You're not looking for anyone else to tell you you're doing great.
Exactly.
It comes from inside.
And that's where this whole savage mindset really comes in. It's about building that inner strength, that resilience that helps you handle anything.
So you can weather any storm.
Yeah. No matter what life throws your way.
You keep moving forward.
Exactly.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I want to turn this back to our listeners. Like, what is your test day right now? What's that challenge that feels like it might break you?
And how can you face it, with that savage warrior spirit? How can you tap into that inner strength, that resilience to not just overcome it, but use it to grow?
Yeah. What's one small step you can take today, even, to get closer to that goal?
Yeah. What can you do to prove to yourself that you can do more than you think you can?
These are some pretty powerful questions.
Yeah, they are.
Definitely worth thinking about. And remember, that grindstone of life, it keeps turning, whether we like it or not.
Right.
You get to choose if it polishes you or crushes you.
You do.
Choose to be polished. Choose to be that savage warrior you are meant to be.
Well said.
And that's a wrap for today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We hope this has given you the inspiration and the tools to face your own test days with a little more courage, a little more determination. Until next time, keep diving deep.